Today in studio, I have a very, very important guest from the Pharo Foundation who will let us know more about their mission, their goals, what they are doing in Africa, in East Africa, and of course in Rwanda too. And right now, I am in studio with Francesca. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Daria.
You're welcome. Is Kigali treating you well?
Absolutely loving it.
The weather, is it different from what you're used to, or it's just
It's
perfect?
slightly better than London, yeah. Very slightly.
Interesting. Is it because it's hot?
Well, the main thing with London is the rain. I mean, you can't do anything, really. So, yeah, really enjoying this break from the weather.
Perfect. I'm so glad you're enjoying it, and I hope that you get to enjoy Royal FM.
I will.
And
your passport to the hot.
sorry about that. All I'd love to know is tell us about Pharo Foundation and your mission, your goals. What should people know about you?
Absolutely. So Pharo Foundation is a mission-driven, impact-led private organization which self-funds, designs, and implements its own programs of economic development. And so we've been doing this since 2011 in 4 countries, Ethiopia, Somaliland, and since 2023, Rwanda and Kenya. And we do all of this with a view to create a vibrant, productive, and self-reliant Africa. And so to reach that, we have 3 key missions. One is in education, where we try to provide opportunities for a quality and affordable education. Secondly, we have a water mission where we're trying to address the water shortage in Africa. And then finally, we have another mission which removes obstacles, whether they be financial or structural or health related, to productivity and employment. Another thing to note is that under the umbrella of the foundation, we have both non-profit programs,
Yes.
but we also have something called Pharo Ventures, which are for-profit social enterprises. And the goal of these ventures is to create a strong African private sector that creates jobs and retains value added within African countries. So that provides a sustainability to our vision.
I like that. You've mentioned education, you've mentioned water, health, agriculture, and I would love to know what Pharo is doing in Rwanda. What programs do you have from schools and any other projects that you have?
Absolutely. So, as I said, Rwanda is a new country for us. We've been here and we've started a school since September 2023 called Pharo School Kigali. And yeah, I think we've managed to already establish ourselves as a quality provider of early childhood education and primary education from grades 1 to 3.
Yes.
And I think, if you ask me sort of what's special about the Pharo School Kigali relative to all of our Pharo schools,
Yes.
I would say it is, our expertise in play-based learning, which we combine with also a more traditional academic sort of emphasis. But the play-based learning thing is quite phenomenal because, you're really empowering both the teacher and the child. And the whole idea is that we don't want learning to just be something that happens in our classroom for the period of time that the child is with us. What we want to teach the child is to love to learn and to to learn over a lifetime. So that's really the kind of transformation we want to reach with play-based learning. It increases their social and cognitive skills. It gives them a lot of self-confidence when they come to new environments. And if they approach everything with a play-based mindset, they're much more likely to develop intellectual curiosity, which is the key for academic performance as well in the long run.
That makes a lot of sense. Funny enough, my mom is very interested in education. She's in the sector, and I actually heard her mention play-based learning before. So it's very interesting that you mentioned that. It's very important to make learning fun, to make it more memorable. And I believe it has even more impact. And I believe that I saw in your website that you have been giving trainings to the teachers about the play-based learning. How is that going?
Absolutely. So it's something we call the Teacher Capacity Building Program.
Yes.
And this started in April. And what happened is, we had consultations with the Ministry of Education here, who has been extremely supportive of our work, and we're very grateful for that. And we kind of decided that we were going to work with Teach Rwanda, and Teach Rwanda was going to mentor our teachers in play-based learning, and our teachers would then go out to basically spread the model of play-based learning to public schools in Rwanda. And so we've started doing that. We've got 16 schools who have gone through the program already, 168 teachers.
Wow.
And I think, it's so far quite a successful program. Makes a huge amount of difference. And I just visited some of the public schools where this is happening. And I was really impressed with the changes that are happening already.
I like that. And you mentioned, is that only for grade 1 to 3? Are you going to expand to more grades? Or?
Very good question. Yes, ideally, I think we would like to have a junior secondary as well. And the other thing we'd like to do in Rwanda is perhaps, spread this teacher capacity building to more rural areas as well. And then finally, for our third mission of employment and productivity, we would also like to implement something here for that, because obviously, youth employment is a critical thing.
Yes.
If you look at, education per se is fantastic, but it's no good if you educate children and then they can't get jobs, right? So what you need to work on is the mismatch between what they learn in school and what employers really want. And so, that's one of the things we work on in that third mission.
So are you mostly working with private schools, public schools, or?
So with this program, it's a majority of public schools. Out of the 16 schools that have done the program, only 4 of them are private. But it's important to have them as well within the sample to compare results. But it's mainly community-based early childhood development centers and public primaries.
Perfect. Tell me more about philanthropy trends in Africa and the impact of Pharo Foundation.
Okay, so, most of what happens in philanthropy in Africa is grant giving. And within that, there have been a few changes lately where we've seen an increasing number of philanthropists who decide to do unrestricted giving with no strings attached to local NGOs. So, it's kind of no questions asked. It's like giving a blank check, essentially. And in conjunction with that, we've also seen the emergence of people we call philanthropy middlemen, who actually bridge donors with local NGOs that they have selected because they believe they are the most impactful and the most trustworthy. But we have nothing to do with any of this. We don't follow trends. Our model is different. What we like to do, as I mentioned originally, is we like to self-finance, design, build, and implement our own programs. And there are a lot of advantages kind of related to that.
Yes.
The self-financing, obviously, it gives us a lot of independence in terms of what we want to do.
Yeah.
But also, we are extremely hands-on. And we're very happy. We like being on the ground and getting our hands dirty. And for instance, out of the 700 employees in the foundation, only 8 of them are in London.
Oh, wow.
So it gives you a sense of the idea. And then the other thing is, perhaps that's different about us, is that we have this sort of private sector business concept to a lot of what we do, and we apply this to development. And it's very different from what you find in the general development world.
That's true.
And we do that a lot. It's very, very helpful to us with the Pharo Ventures in particular.
I like the fact that you're you're not in one place, you're in different places. We're having a conversation. You've been in Kenya a couple of times, and now you're here. And where are you going next?
Very good question. Well, because we've just expanded geographically in the last year to 2 new countries, which is a lot. I think we're taking a small break from the geographical expansion.
Yes.
We're probably going to consolidate the existing resources we have now. But I think, it is it's possible that we might go to West Africa at some point, but we don't have a time schedule on that. However, I think, because we're kind of in consolidation mode, we're probably going to think more about, strategy. And I think one of the most important things we're going to do in the next few years is make sure that we enter the policy space in particular in each one of our countries. Because if we want to reach our missions, we really have to find partners and scale everything up of what we're already doing. So that's going to be our emphasis in the next 5 years, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about democratizing education in Africa and what this means for the continent's future.
Okay, so for us, really, democratizing education is providing the quality and accessible and affordable education. I think it's also, from an investment perspective, it makes a lot of sense because it's the ultimate investment unicorn. It yields returns always, really. And in terms of, what we're going to do on that front, for instance, I've told you already about what happens in Pharo School Kigali, but in all of our schools, we have a very clear model of what we want to do in terms of the content. So we want to apply sort of global innovations in pedagogy, but we want to do that by tailoring it to the specific learning context that we're in. And so what we turn out at the end in terms of our pupils, I think, is, people who are global citizens, but who are also very invested in their local communities. And so, in the kind of Umuganda philosophy.
Yes.
The other thing that matters for us in terms of the education area is, as I said, play-based learning in a sense is an introduction to this, but we want pupils who have a bit of a sort of scientific mindset. We want them to be comfortable with data, experimentation, and research. And the result is that we're actually seeing a lot of these kids develop a real strength in science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's not just about being good at these subjects.
Yes.
It's about, having the kind of mindset that allows you to be intellectually curious and question your environment critically. That's what it's about, really.
I like that.
So,
I like that. It's very expansive. It's very different from what many foundations are doing. And I'm sure that Africa is going to benefit from everything that you're doing right now. Before we wrap things up, tell me more about food security and opportunities to unlock.
Absolutely. So I guess on the food security front, again, it's one of these things that is critical in the African environment. If you think that within the whole world, the 60% of the uncultivated arable land is in Africa, it is absolutely shocking that given that 1 out of 5 people at the very least is food insecure, right? We've got to do something about this.
Sure.
And food security really relates to Pharo's missions because, where do you start self-reliance, which is what we're interested in? It's got to be with food.
Yes.
So on that front, with the countries that we're dealing with, we obviously realize that the lack of water infrastructure makes it really difficult to really start off an economic development process where, livestock and agriculture are the central resource, right? So you start really with water to solve the food problem. That's what we do. So, we have done a lot of water projects in Ethiopia, but really our emphasis has been on Somaliland. And what we do there is that we build these very big dams. They're called Hafir dams. They're sort of rectangular catchment basins for storage of the water for livestock and for people during the dry seasons. And what's very special about what we do is that we have we put these plastic geomembranes on them, which prevent the seepage of the water into the soil. And so, we've built 3 of those in the last year, and we are still completing another 2, and we're planning another 3 in the future. So that's where we start from on the waterfront. And then beyond that, on food, we focus mostly on knowledge gaps in high productivity agriculture for smallholder farmers. And what we have is, these sort of demonstration farms, both in Ethiopia and Somaliland, where we provide declining subsidies for fertilizers and seeds, and we train the farmers in the techniques. But I think ultimately what we want to be focusing on in the future is integrating the water and the agriculture. So have, a series of these really big dams that are sufficient to feed into commercial farms. And so that's our next kind of goal on that one.
Perfect. So maybe there's someone out there who is hearing about Pharo Foundation for the first time. How can they connect with you? Maybe they're interested in what you're doing in terms of education, in terms of water. How can we learn more about Pharo Foundation? Where can we reach you and know about the projects that you're up to?
Yeah, I mean, the first starting point, just to get an idea of what we're about, is just our website. We've updated it quite recently. And it's a very good sort of overview of what we do. But in terms of getting in contact, social media is probably the best way to start, really.
So you're everywhere on Twitter,
Not on Twitter. Well, on Twitter in Rwanda we are. Yeah. But other than that, Instagram, Facebook, that's it.
All right. So if you're tuned into the show and you're interested to see what Pharo Foundation is doing, feel free to check them out. And of course, I want to say thank you so much for coming through, Francesca, and letting us know about the amazing things that you're doing in East Africa. We wish you all the best, and you're welcome back to Kigali anytime.
Thank you so much. It's been great, Daria.
All right. Perfect.
Royal FM, the heartbeat.